Questions and a request of staff. For the staff, I'd like the staff to find out what each of the other counties does.
That was presented at judicial. State's attorney.
Okay, can you just share that to this committee, because I didn't review their stuff? If you could share that with us, that would be
Was
perfect.
it in a different?
It's at finance, right?
Finance.
It was a special finance.
That was the special meeting that I wasn't at.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, but if you can resend it again so we can relook at it.
I guess just to update you, the original ask of the finance committee was to do the 250 to fund it. I do believe Melissa and Rashawn have worked with leadership, and that has been accomplished.
Yeah.
And Denise, I think I saw.
Yes.
Yeah, Ken
So-
told me that it was worked on. And
Yeah, so that is going to be.
so that's fine. Did they initially ask for 500?
It's unclear. To be honest, there was really no ask.
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's what I thought.
In the budget meeting, there
was no ask.
Correct.
Right, and I think that's where some of the confusion lies. I mean, you know, county government, even in Will County, is kind of a big thing, and there's a lot to focus on. And some things don't come up every month. Some things maybe don't even come up every year, or if they do come up every year, they're not discussed in detail. Or if you miss that meeting or that special presentation by whoever that grand poobah is, you maybe don't focus on it. It was mentioned at finance that the CAC, those are employees of the county. So we are already paying for the employees.
No, they are funded through grants, but it does go through the budget process. But all the funding comes from grants, and, you know, it was the court fees and the fundraising. So there's no corporate money that is put into the
Gotcha.
CAC.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that that was clear with everybody. So like any other grant, when the grants go away, the employees go away. But in the case of the CAC, and Mike can correct me if I'm wrong, they do fundraising, and they grant themselves from their own 501c monies to run. Is that right, Mike?
Well, that's part of it.
Part of it?
That
Do
helps.
you want to add to what I
That
said?
helps with the budget, and part of that, the reason for the ask is the other counties, and it's on the sheet. The other counties, like Kane and Page, they fund through their corporate fund. They fund the CAC. Not totally, but they put a big chunk of money into the CAC to help it operate. And we are going to each village now and town
Right.
and asking them for a contribution, 25% of what it's costing us to do all those VSIs for each one of the different localities. That will help us, but the problem is, it's a problem, it keeps growing. The amount of VSIs that we're doing, we're up to 653. And as part of the whole CAC, we also want to try to expand into elder abuse, which there is no agency to kind of deal with it at this point. But we have qualified people that would be able to do those interviews should we get to that point. We're not even there. We're just trying to keep the budget solid right now for the amount of cases that we have, which is growing every year.
Right.
However, the money that we spend on that reduces our law enforcement effort. It definitely reduces what the state's attorney's office has to do to prosecute these things, because otherwise they would have to do way more work to prosecute them. And our conviction rate is, I think, in the 93% range, which is super for those kinds of crimes. So there's back-end benefit, and if we didn't have this, the cost would skyrocket on all those other areas. That's why these other counties, they fund it. You're right that the money like Men Who Cook, which is their big event, which brings in, I think this year they're in $120,000 range, is a nice chunk of money. They're not going to stop doing that.
Right.
But it doesn't fund the whole budget.
Right. No, understood. And And I appreciate the work that they're doing, and as I said in finance, I'm a big supporter of their work. I do want to state, though, for the record, we're not addressing the root cause of what brings those children into the system. This is just dealing with the after effects of what brought them into the system. Beth wanted to say something? Yes, no?
I wanted to first confirm all employees are paid through grants. None are,
None of them at the Children's Advocacy Center are paid with corporate funding. They are
Right.
paid, there are a variety of grants, fundraising, and court fees. So, you know, I can't say public funds because the court fees would be public funds, and that may go. But none of it comes out of the corporate budget.
And they had a reduction in their court fees.
thank you. And so this was brought to legislative, and I'm not sure, or referred by whom, but I'm wondering what the legislative ask is. I know for finance, what's already in motion, right? But
It was mentioned that if the state is going to mandate that we have these boards, that maybe the state should be putting some money in the pot. And I guess they are vis-a-vis the grants,
Yeah,
but
this isn't a
I'm
new
thinking we
mandate
should
this
be
year.
asking for something, even if it's small, something to maintain the board that they insist by statute that we have.
I think the board is all volunteer, Mike, correct?
The executive board is volunteer.
Yeah.
We do have two positions from county, Herb and I are on the board, so it's mandated that we have county board members.
But I do think having a board is kind of disingenuous if the board's not going to do anything. I mean, I can have a tea party every Wednesday and we can chit chat all day, but if we don't have any ability to do something, then I'm not sure what the purpose of the board is. So I'm assuming they wanted this board to do something, not just
They do
have
make-
coffee
they do
on
make
Wednesday.
decisions, right, Mike? I mean, yeah, they meet and
Make
they,
decisions, but they make decisions on
I mean, they're
things
budget.
that we are funding through grants, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm suggesting that the organization should have some funding, not necessarily the board. Like, we don't need to pay board members, they should still be volunteers, but the advocacy center should get some money.
I mean, for capital, they are gonna get quite a bit, right, Mike, from the various legislators?
That's a
for
one-time,
Capital investments.
yeah, that's
So-
a one-time deal.
But,
Yeah.
but we were glad that Will County got quite a bit of money for that, which was great, and it was a good start, as Mike
Right,
said.
and that's,
We would hope
it's a start.
we would hope that, and we have some land identified, we would hope that they're going to be able to build a facility. Because right now, we're going to be going through our, where they come in and say, the facility isn't right, these rooms need to be different and all that, because we're using the building across the
They have
street.
to be
So we-
certified next year,
Right, so we
yeah.
do want to build eventually, and
No.
that 800,000 will contribute to whatever the 3-4 million will build. But if you look at the front of the sheet that they just handed out, you can see
thank
under
you.
the fourth column down where it says direct county dollar support, DuPage out of the corporate fund funds 34% of the total budget, 46 for King, Kendall, we fund 0%.
Well, I mean, we fund about 16% if you take into account rent and utilities that we give. So it's about $135,000 a
But
year.
that's, these are cash dollars, they also have facilities as well.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you for a second, Mike, and, because Nick's been waiting to speak, and,
So
yeah.
most of what I was going to say has been said, but I just reiterate. One, they do great work. It's huge work, it helps the court system. Two, we do provide, and we have for a number of years, provided them free rent, utilities, whatever. There's no operational cost as far as the building. And they do use that number as a match for the grants that they do get. So without that match, they wouldn't have those dollars to match. So just to be accurate, it's not absolutely 0%, it's a
Right.
match. That's number one. The other thing is, this isn't the first year that there's been an ask for operational money. For years, we've said no to them.
Thank you,
The
'cause
leadership
I
has
thought this
said,
had come up
go raise
before."
money through your programs, things like that. The challenge has been that they need a permanent facility that's better than what they have. And so that the talk, and this is secondhand, but I've worked with Lisa in the State Secretary's office, is they want to build a facility that's purpose-built. So they needed money. So a number of us were working on Memorial Day weekend. $850,000 has been appropriated from the capital bill. That's, as Mike said, that's a portion of it, and that would be a purpose-built building. But they can't raise money for their operations and run a capital campaign side by side. There's just not enough money out there. So I think that's why the ask is before the board to say, help us with some operational money, which takes a little pressure off so that we can continue to raise money for operations for the balance and money for capital. And we're going to go forward and try to build a purpose-built building. But they've moved from several county buildings, and we did the best that we could with the resources we were available. But the money that's being appropriated out of the budget is not like just free money that's sitting out there. We're cutting other things to make this work, and that's always been the case. We have to prioritize, and we're prioritizing. So we're going to find a way to make this commitment of operations, and it's a one-time thing. Next year we'll have to appropriate again, and the capital is a one-time appropriation, but it's like you're only building the building once, hopefully, but then you'll have ongoing operational.
Well, and that's what I wanted to address, because it was stated here at the Finance Committee that Lisa lost her position is really as director of the center, and she's still spending an awful lot of time on the fundraising arm. And so I don't have the solution to that, but I do think it's something that needs to be addressed. Now, whether it gets addressed with your board, Mike, or with...
The board is looking at hiring an outside company to do a fundraising campaign for a capital campaign, which I personally suggested and think would be the way to go on that. But again, to Maura's point, if you look down almost to the next to the last here, county facilities and utilities, every other county provides a facility and utilities. That's not part of their cash contribution, which every other county does. So we're a little behind the eight ball in providing for them on their operations. Again, that $800,000 from the state's rate, it may be a quarter of what we need. We are actually getting some initial preliminary drawings done pro bono for us to at least start the process, and then we need to have a capital campaign fundraising arm to do that.
Okay.
So it's not on, there's no way Lisa or any of us on that board can raise that kind of money without
Right,
concerted effort.
and I hear you. And as the former chair of the Finance Committee, I'm sure you've been in receipt of these requests for money and had to tell them no. Have we grown some money somewhere on a tree that I missed, that somehow now we're going to find it? Well, no. So, as Nick said, there's going to be cuts in other areas in order to do this. We've decided to prioritize this and move this up to the top of the list. And so I suggested that maybe we talk about it at legislative. Maybe there should be some ask of the state. Maybe they provide the utilities and the building costs going forward. I don't know. But I thought if we're going to decide something, I believe in the committee process. I don't believe I should dream up the idea and try to sell it to all of you. I think there's a few heads here. We can come up with something.
And Mary, maybe you can just, correct me if I'm wrong, but the line item in the cost, fines and costs, there's still a CAC line item or no?
I believe that there is, and gets reduced.
Okay. And just
Well, you don't know. Well, I'm not sure that there's a fee. I think we provided that out of, I think we mean the county provided a portion out of the pot that was there.
Okay.
And you see the line item for court fees and fines.
Right, and so that was my point. Prior to the legislative session of this year, when they changed the fines and fees, there was a designated line on all felony cost sheets that where it would say CAC, and we knew as prosecutors that that was one of the most important lines that you make sure that you fill in, because it's our responsibility to do that as prosecutors. So I was just wondering, because I haven't been there since that passed, whether or not that line stayed or if it's been removed because of the legislation.
Yeah, it's been removed.
Well, I think as a state designated, but then there was the large pot that the county was able to divvy up, and I believe that the county did divvy up some for the CAC, but it's not the same funding levels as it was prior.
Because
and I also want to say too, with the internet, there are a lot more cases coming out because of the proliferation of the internet and It just allows those who would take advantage of children to communicate much more freely, and so there's an uptick from that. So I don't see that going away anytime soon.
No. Meta?
What's the last page?
So the last page is the ask that we are making of all of the villages that you see there and towns and stuff. That's asked 25% of the cost. We're asking the villages to contribute. They have no, they're not compelled to give us this money. Most of the villages are going back to their boards and asking to put that into the budget.
Into their
Some
next
of
year's
them-
budget. And you see in the last column, Meta, that's what we've actually received, or they've reviewed it, or they've given nothing. So it's a pretty small amount compared to the ask, and we were only asking for 25% of the cost.
Of what the cost is for them to do their cases.
And who in this case is doing the asking of the municipalities? Is it an employee from the CAC? I'm wondering.
Ask Alex.
Okay. 'Cause- Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to say, we have 4 fairly lengthy topics, so I am going to take one more comment from Nick, and then if you have a suggestion on how to move forward, we'll listen to that, but then we need to move to the next topic. Nick?
I mean, the only other comment, just this is kind of obvious, is that if these agencies, these police departments don't have the CAC, then they have to pay for this themselves, or they just don't do it. We know this is a valuable service, and that's why the county and the state's attorney's office, have done this. But this is an example of consolidating this at a county agency is a more efficient way to do this, rather than having 20 municipalities replicate this. So it's in their interest to support this, because we're only asking for 25% of their proportional costs at this point, which probably needs to go up to 100% of their proportional costs ultimately. But you got to start somewhere, because they've been paying zero and getting a service. So this is the state's attorney's office has used 25% as a starting point to get them in the game, and so. But
Thank you.
it's much cheaper to do it this way than have 20.
Absolutely.
30
Julie?
Quick question, Mike, the columns, the yearly columns here on this, that number in that column, are those the number of cases in that municipality
Yes.
then?
Mhm.
Okay, I see,
And
thank
then
you.
they have a 3-year average.
And then just one,
And then they get a 3-year average, and then they use that to determine how much it costs.
And you can see a rise in many of these municipalities
Oh, yeah.
in the
Oh,
number
yeah.
of cases, so.
yeah, Mary's already talked about it. Mike, is there any kind of a proposal that if somebody doesn't contribute, that we won't provide the service? Okay, just asking.
We wouldn't- yeah, we
No,
wouldn't do that.
I want to ask the question, that's important.
It's okay, we need to keep
Okay.
it. I'll ask Mike later.
I'm going to keep this on the agenda for next month. You guys will have some time to think about it. Do we want to have an Ask of Springfield for our agenda, or are we just, this is informational, we now know what's going on? And we'll make that decision next month, if that's okay with everybody on the committee. Okay? All right, so we'll move on to topic number 2, biosolid fertilizer. And I think we have a special guest that might want to come up and talk to us a little bit about the poop. This is poop, folks. From your sewer to ours. I can make jokes all day. I even have a sheet from my chiropractor's office about poop. So this is Mark from the Will County Farm Bureau. I was going to say extension, but Farm Bureau. Everybody knows Mark. Yeah, put your star on, man. You get a star today.
Yeah.
Tell us about biosolid fertilizer.
Well, it's been something that was originally called sludge. And then in 2015, they went to the legislature and actually have a new quality type of it. They're calling it exceptional quality biosolids. And so they went ahead and it's a new category for it, and they changed that with the state legislature in 2015. And so it's more of a pelletized, this type. You have the liquid that the city of Joliet puts out. If the city of Joliet was required to go to a non-liquid, it would cost them millions and millions of dollars to put new facilities in.
And what do they use it on?
They're using it for fertilizer on farm ground. But it's
The
been
city of
used-
Joliet is farming
Yes.
ground?
The city of Joliet is actually putting it, they're selling it to a company, and a company puts it on the farm ground itself. Otherwise, they have to have a different way of disposing of this material.
Ah,
So
so
they'll
this
have
is
to
the
pay
city
for it.
of Joliet sludge,
Well-
their poop.
Well, part of it is, what we're dealing with over in the eastern part of Will County was a different type of biosolids that was coming out of the city of Chicago area. So that was coming out of the north. So there's different contractors, there's different people. It's all regulated through the Illinois Department of Agriculture through their part, but then the US EPA and the Illinois EPA are the one that actually does the actual application process as far as reviewing and technical work that they do on that process. They actually took it away from any county regulations. I've worked with Tim and Tim on this back and forth, and we worked with other people as well. And the county doesn't have any jurisdiction in regards to the application process. It all goes to the state of Illinois. I didn't know exactly what you were all wanting.
Oh, I don't know either.
Because I can bring in some speakers if you want to down the line to hang up Brian. Because I know that the problem we had this past year with it is that with farming in general, we just had too much rain. And when they actually put the pile out there, they couldn't get it on right away. And then they wound up, this individual farmer was asked to take more before he had the other ones, because they had a train derailment, and the train derailment could not move the product. So they wound up taking an additional 7 loads of this, and so they wound up getting it, and they put it and they applied it. And I know that one of the piles was actually steaming, and it will do that, especially if you get water on it. But one of the things we have to remember here is that smell is not a regulation.
Right.
It's not part of the process.
They don't regulate heat either. If you work in a very hot environment, there are no OSHA regulations for heat. The employer can make it as hot as he wants to, as long as you're willing to stay.
And this does, when you get it wet, it will smell, and it will smell longer than what regular manure does. There is a very big odor with this, but that was something they put in the legislature that was not part of the process of being regulated by.
Well, sounds like maybe we were making a mountain out of a poop hill.
Well, no, because
Not that the people that were affected this year weren't
people
affected.
need to
because they
understand how it
were.
all works though too, and actually we're here to try to help people better understand this use of this product and all that. And the bottom line is that it's actually helping the municipalities be able to move their biosolids, and so farm ground is the ideal spot on it. And it takes quite a bit to put onto the farm, so there's lots of trucks that go out there. But some of the farmers are actually looking at buying the equipment and doing it themselves. This farmer that we visited with, I know that when I talked with Tim, they said that they turned it over to, was it the Bureau of Water, Tim?
Correct.
Yeah, Bureau of Water, and they came out and they actually did some inspections. And I can probably get a copy of that inspection if you would like to find out what they found out with that process.
I would be interested in that. I think with your explanation, I think we've learned that the biggest problem this year was the rain. We don't know how much climate change is going to continue to affect that. I mean, maybe this year was just an exceptional year, maybe.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, I know our farmers are hoping.
We've never seen a year like this.
Yeah, and like you said, we don't have any jurisdiction. I don't know if anybody read the Sunday Tribune, but there was an article in, I don't know, maybe Arts and Entertainment, one section of the paper, and they were talking about the millions of pounds of clothing that we put into landfills every year because we just don't think about it. And this is another topic, the sludge or the poo is something we don't think about. It's got to go somewhere.
Or, like I suggest, stop pooping.
Yeah, stop
It's
pooping.
my suggestion.
I like it. I like it. I don't think it's very practical, but I like it.
Solutions here.
What I did bring a handout just on biosolids.
Good,
And
thank you.
basically it talks about the 2015 rules and regulations, what they changed it with the legislature. They talk about what it was considered before, what the new legislation does, and it actually changed how the application is as well. They used to have some days put it, now they've got best management practices. Unfortunately, the weather was an issue this past year. And again, the farmer did some changes on his own too. He went from having somebody do it, apply it to the ground, so he went to buy the equipment himself, and that took him a couple of weeks too to get that into place. So it was on the ground for a longer period of time than what he would have liked. He's been doing this for about 24, 25 years, and this is one of the first years he really had any problems in this because he put more on because close to 50% of his ground was not planted this year. And usually you don't put biosolids on ground that's already, you put it on the wheat ground. Because the weed is something that's usually harvested in the middle of
winter.
July, and then
Oh.
you can put that application on, so you can help relieve some of the pressures out of it, and then you can put it on in the fall a year too when you get done with harvesting. So you've got 2 different application timeframes.
Okay.
And so this year, he had hundreds of acres that he didn't get planted, so that's why he was trying to put it on the ground.
I do consider you an expert on the poop.
I did.
And, you know, do you feel that the county should be asking for some sort of regulatory authority again? Or should we just leave this in the state, hands of the state
I would
and
leave it
see
in
if
the
we have
state.
more rain?
I would leave it in the state. Let me tell you why I think we should leave it with the state. Otherwise, you're going to have 101 different rules and regulations in the state of Illinois. Every county is going to look at it a little differently, and I think the state of Illinois is the proper place where it's at. And I know that the county has a lot of other stuff, but this is underneath the Bureau of Water. And again, the watering, where they put the piles and all that, that has to be regulated as well. So, and again, the state did come out and do an inspection. I've talked with the state. They haven't given me any explanation of what that report was, but the farmer indicated that he did not find any regulations that were saying that he was in violation at that point in the juncture. I can get a copy of that report. It just takes some time to get that.
Yeah.
Seems
I-
like
I
there's
would-
a lot of regulations
Yeah.
here, as far as when they can put it on,
Yeah.
how soon they have to put it on, but again, if you have rain for 30 days like we had.
Yeah.
60
That was part of the
days?
problem. That was a
And
part
then
of
we
it.
got, what, a month's break and then it started again?
That was part of the problem this year.
Yeah.
But again, you know, he made a couple of changes on application process himself, and he put himself in a little hole too.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's.
He learned from his mistakes.
I
We
think,
all do.
I think he did, and you know, and he was really felt bad about it. He tried to get it on as fast as he could, so he just couldn't get it on.
Judy?
Yeah, so, you know, we farm as well, and after we got our weed out, it was forever till they were able to come and put biosolids on. Actually, they had just finished doing that recently, so it's way late in that too, because of the rain, no one could do it, and then we just had it put on, and then usually my husband would go ahead and plant afterwards, but then
It rained.
it rained. How did I just have, it just keeps raining, so this year is just, you know, a bad year.
Really messed
for it.
up.
Yeah.
If we end up with this climate long-term, we'll probably have to,
I think if
address
you look
it
back in
differently.
history, climate changes constantly, and there's rainy years, and there's non-rainy years, and this is
Drought
just a rainy
years.
year, drought years, and so this is just a rainy year.
Yeah, so, but I mean, if you're looking at, if you want me to bring a speaker in that actually does the application part of it, like an agronomist.
You guys
of
wanna
it,
know
or if
more
you
about
wanna-
the poop?
If you want to see a copy of that report.
that I would be interested
okay,
in. The
okay.
copy of the report would be good. Julie?
Yes, Mark, you mentioned a train derailment. Was
Yes,
that
correct.
in Will County?
No, it was not. It was it was in the Kankakee area. And it was nothing to do, the biosolids were not on it. The biosolids were supposed to go on that train going south.
And they
So-
couldn't
And
go.
they couldn't move it. They had to get rid of it because they had already, so they think, oh, can you take some more? And that's where several of those came up our way. A lot more went on in the middle of the year than it normally does, because usually we're not having that much land available for that. Because wheat in Will County, we've only got 11,000 acres of wheat, so we don't have a lot of ground to put it on
Yeah.
right away.
So you have that ripple effect.
Okay.
Correct.
And Mike, you have a comment on the
Yeah,
poop?
it just sounds like to me, we got one isolated case, I know it was uncomfortable for some people. Had
A lot of people in that
It
area.
was an isolated case with a weird set of circumstances and weather that all contributed to it. We didn't hear this throughout the county, it was in this one area that Laurie had brought up. So, we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, I think so.
There's enough rules and regulations in the state document.
There's quite a bit there.
I think I've watched too many episodes of Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe. You guys know that show?
Oh, yeah.
Where he talks about the poo. That guy does some funny stuff. Thank you, Mark,
You're
for
welcome.
coming to chat with us.
Thank you for the
and,
opportunity and
Thank you.
for the invite.
I look forward to that report,
Sounds good.
very much so. Okay, next topic, vaping. There was a presentation that is scheduled for Thursday, November 14th at Lincoln Way West High School. They've got some speakers that are coming. Obviously, this is a big topic in the news. We've had lots of deaths. We've had people in Will County get sick. You know, this is a potential legislative issue for us. The state has changed the smoking rules to 21 in possession and all of those fun things. We changed in an ordinance, I think, last month?
No, we didn't.
We didn't
We
change
just
it?
let it remain as it was.
But let it remain as what the state had done,
What we had.
or what we had
We
done?
did, yeah, we did not.
We did not change it.
No,
Is there
Change
any,
the amount of the fines.
yeah, is there any thoughts by the committee to do something with the vaping?
Isn't there a seminar or something coming this week too?
Well, I don't know about this week. Mike?
I mean, the state's in the middle of it. I had suggested last month, I don't even know what, the committee, that maybe we should have a ban on the sales of it until they know what the heck is actually happening, which they still don't know. But I think the state's already on that. They're trying to figure it out as well. They may put some.
And the feds.
Yeah, they may put some blocks in to stop some of the sales of it. They're talking about getting rid of all the flavor stuff, which attracts the kids more. But I think the key is they gotta find out what's going on with these things. They really don't know what in that vaping.
And they talked about
Device.
counterfeit
Right, that's what it is.
liquids, and, you know, some of it has been counterfeit. Julie?
They do mention that a lot of this has to deal with the counterfeit products. I would be curious to know from the state's attorney, what are they seeing out there? What type of resources are our sheriffs, do they have to deal with this?
Not really, no. You know, there's, you know, it's prohibited for individuals under the age of 21, and I would defer to the sheriff as to what they're doing in the community. Generally, I do know that they work with the schools where we have school resource officers, and that's, you know, was in part the genesis of the ordinance that came forward, was to try to regulate smoking in the schools and the vaping in particular. But
There's the
I
public
mean,
service announcements, yeah.
yeah, but I mean, our ordinance does prohibit vaping for 18 and under, which should deal with most of the school issues.
Do we want to
you know,
try?
to the extent it can.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Julie, do you want us to try to get a superintendent from a couple of the larger school districts to come in and talk about what's going on in their school district, and if there's a lot of rampant use, or what?
Well, another thing, I was wondering, are the canines trained to be able to find these vaping products? And how frequently do
I
they go?
don't think so, because
No,
they
that's
have
too
to
new.
say illegal.
That's too new.
That would be like training them to be able to smell tobacco.
Yeah, we don't do
I mean,
that.
because it's a legal
legal.
product. You have to remember, this is a legal product.
Mhm.
It's just prohibited for minors to purchase or use it. So, no, we would not, I would be very surprised. I can't say definitively they wouldn't be able to, but it's not something I would envision that they would be utilized for.
Mike?
So there's nothing legally that we can do to put a moratorium on the sale of the product in the county or anything. It's all regulated by the state. right?
Correct, that is correct.
And since we have a lawyer in the hot seat, can you please reiterate what the smoking ordinance is in Will County and what the state law is?
Okay, so the state law prohibits the possession of vaping and tobacco 21 and under 21. Our ordinance does 18 and under.
So does that mean, what does that mean with our ordinance and what youth that affects? Where,
So really, the county board was approached by the sheriff's office specifically because of the resource officers in the schools, because the schools have been struggling to control this issue. And as you know, we only have a couple of high schools in unincorporated because it only affects that. So this just gives them one more option rather than charging them, you know, with a state crime, essentially, a state violation for possessing or using tobacco or vaping products. Now they can give them an ordinance violation. It's not as serious, but it's just one more tool in the toolbox that they have to utilize.
Do they come in front of the administrative adjudication? Yeah. So they don't clog up our courthouse, they come here to the county building. Meta?
Just to let everyone on the committee know, Thursday, October 10th, this week, 5 p.m. at Plainfield East High School Auditorium, our very own Dr. Kathleen Burke and Dr. Erin Weiner will both be, might be Weiner, I might be saying that wrong, presenting on, there's going to be community resources available beginning at 5 and speaker presentations at 6 with a Q&A to follow, talking about vaping, marijuana, opioids, what do you know? And it's a presentation for parents, caregivers, teachers, staff, I mean anybody, social workers, nurses, psychologists, counselors, all that stuff. So, but yeah, so that's a time.
So you were right, there is one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought in my break, I saw Dr. Kathleen Burke and I was like, are we doing, who's doing that? But it's Plainfield's High School, East High School in their auditorium.
And
So.
Kathleen will also be presenting on Thursday at the committee of the whole about, not specific to vaping, but
Cannabis.
specific to cannabis. Yeah.
So,
Could we see, Sheriff Burke has anything to say, and only if he does, I have no questions, just. I'm just curious if you have any comments from the law enforcement perspective. I have no specific questions.
The only comments I have is we appreciate you passing the ordinance so we can issue ordinance violations in the Lincoln Way High Schools. I myself, I read each day the calls we have. I haven't seen anybody in our reports that's gotten sick or been hospitalized or had to call an ambulance for somebody who was vaping. That's all I can tell you, really.
does the committee have a desire to do anything further on this topic?
I think we should stay on top of it, just
monitor
it and see how it goes, specifically in terms of how many cases we have in Will County.
Do we know that? Does somebody tell us? I mean, can we find out from the coroner's office if we get any deaths?
Because you can't actually say this happened because of vaping.
Right.
Yeah,
They
the
don't.
device
So
itself.
if someone gets a weird lung cancer or if they get pneumonia, they can't, there's no
definitive
there's
way.
correlation, there's not causation. So
Yeah.
there are no stats that are going to say, oh, this many people have gotten cancer from vaping or had pneumonia or died. Like, it's just not, it just doesn't exist.
I
Maybe
think
I'm
when
wrong, but I thought that this
they're
was a
seeing-
special lung
There's
problem.
some lung
Specific.
specific disease, and you know,
Not
there is one
disease,
family
illness.
or illness. There is one family out of New Lenox who I actually know, and they their daughter who was 18 did experience some severe lung problems. But that being said, 79% of all of these problems are from THC cartridges, and the actual specific, when vitamin A is inhaled, vitamin E is inhaled, it then can create a problem. They're cutting the oils in the THC with that vitamin.
These are not
So I think,
Right.
you are gonna see, I think states take the lead, and if there is a real issue with the actual vaping device, I would imagine there's going to be some state legislation.
Well, I do have a friend who had a device, actually a friend's boyfriend had the device and it exploded in his pants pocket. And I saw the picture of his burned up leg and.
That's a battery problem.
Yeah, it's a huge,
Yeah, the CDC is already involved in
Yeah.
it, the feds are involved with it, the state's involved with it. I think we just have to monitor what's happening here
Yeah.
and see what kind of legislation they put through and hopefully be supportive of legislation that they create.
similar to the fentanyl thing, there's,
Yeah.
there's stuff going on that's not the normal product. And
Right.
not that
Stop it.
heroin is normal, but fentanyl in heroin is not normal. Okay, all right, so we'll just keep monitoring that one. Next topic, cost of insulin, and that was Meta.
Right, yeah. No, I just wanted us to, I was reading about some of the stuff. What's the bill, 667?
Senate Bill 667.
Yes.
It's going to cap the out-of-pocket costs for insulin at $100 a month.
Yes. Which isn't cheap enough, but it's
We're looking
a
at
start.
passing that in veto sessions.
I should.
you think it's gonna happen in the fall veto session? So then
Maybe
maybe,
a letter of support.
yeah, a letter of support that goes out to all of our legislators in the county. Sandy, if you can, you and Maura can maybe put something together that we can approve. I don't even know if it needs to come back to this committee. I mean, can we just put it on the agenda for approval at the regular county board meeting? Can we get it done that quickly? Is it okay to do that?
I'll have to check with leadership, I mean, whether you want a letter of support regarding the insulin.
We can
Maybe just save a space.
save a space, yeah. I hate to delay it and have it come back here, because then you're talking, the November county board meeting, well,
Right.
they're done meeting then, I mean, or, you know,
Bring it up
close.
to executive
Yeah.
during your talking thing,
Yeah, maybe I'll bring it up at executive, does that work?
Sure,
and
yeah.
then they can make the decision.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll bring it up at executive and then maybe save a place on the county board agenda for it. Wow, I expected a lot more conversation out of you guys. I'm stunned. But, you know, back on the agenda, it said, well, I guess we didn't put it on here, but it's considered old business, not that we really thought we had any. But Beth has her list of state legislative things that we came up with at the last meeting, so maybe we probably should put that on the agenda every time, just the list.
I'm sorry, what are you?
These were all the legislative issues that we talked about at the last committee meeting. We probably need to have like this list just on our agenda every time. So that if anybody has any new information or they want to add something new to
You mean
it.
like attach it so that people can peruse and say, I don't see what I want to see on here, and
Right.
then they can bring that up?
Yeah, because, you know, we talked about the drainage district
Right.
fees, that we were gonna put that on the state
Right.
agenda, electric charging, advocating for stations, and who was it that said they were gonna have a station?
No, I remember, it was
Particularly in the back, and we were all
I
excited.
think it was the courthouse, at the court.
The parking? Yeah, the parking at the courthouse? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're gonna have a charging station.
It is. You know, the truck enforcement, sorry, I have a horrible frog in my throat. The funds from the cannabis tax from the state not opting out, e-cigarette ban, the road fund, historical fund. I mean, we have a list of things that came up that we're going to talk
To be
about.
very clear, there's no consensus that these are items. We are trying to track items that were discussed so that when it comes time to make a committee decision on whether or not we support it, or things aren't dropping off, or more importantly, coming up at the last minute where people say, I don't have enough information on this,
Right.
even though we talked about it 3 times. I did
Yeah.
ask.
Yes, so we're going to keep that list on so that that's a constant rolling,
That would be good.
yeah, I think so too.
Chippy,
Mhm.
I have a question about the charging station, and you probably don't know this.
Somebody.
Hit the button, girl.
I'm curious about whether or not there's going to be a cost for somebody
Oh, I
to
can
use
answer
it,
that.
because in most locations in Naperville, parking decks throughout the city and many other stations I've seen, there's no cost.
Mm-hmm.
People are charging their vehicles, and I mean, the taxpayers paying for it.
Let me
but-
answer that, because I drive an electric vehicle, so I consider myself somewhat of an expert. So when you go to some parking garages and you pay your fee to go in to that parking garage, you get to park there, and if they have a charging station and they don't charge, you can plug your car in. A lot of the charging stations require you to have, do I have it with me? Oh, I don't have it with me. An account with a company. Blink is a common company that you hear a lot about, and ChargePoint, I think is the one that comes with GM or Chevy cars. And you have this little scan thing, and you scan it. So like when I park at Midway Airport, and this is where I made a serious error in judgment. I mean, like expensive serious, right? I'm going on a 3-day trip. I pull in the garage. They're paying, you know, you're paying the $17.50, $15.50, whatever it is a day, and they have these charging stations. So I just assume if I plug into the charging station, since there was no sign that said their policy, that they would just charge me for the amount of time that it took to charge my vehicle back up to its full charge, right? and it was Blink, and I scanned my little thing, or maybe it was ChargePoint, and I scanned my little thing. I get my bill the next month. They charged me for 3 full days of continuous charging. It was $50.
Well, they adjusted.
No,
No,
they
because you took
don't.
the spot, so they
Because
couldn't
I
put
took
money on
the
to
spot.
somebody else.
So those spots are really only made for people to sit there for 3 hours, because those are fast chargers, and you better get your car the heck out of there, because they're going to keep charging you. Now there's one at the mall, at the Promenade in Bolingbrook. They just went up. They're all around the Macy's. And Macy's pays for them. They put their ads on the kiosk, and they pay to have them installed, and there is no fee whatsoever. So I don't know what our plan is at the courthouse, but you can have it where there's a benefactor. Like I go to the Elmhurst movie theater, and there's an Elmhurst public parking garage, and the benefactor is the city of Elmhurst. You pay, you know, for your parking time, and then you get the free charging. And then if you go into the movie theater and validate your thing or anything that's on their list, then you get a discount on the parking too. So there's all different kinds of schemes, just depending on, you know, whether or not there's a sponsor for that machine. Okay?
And I was just going to say that I really am an advocate for electronic charging stations, but not at the county's expense. I'm for the for-pay model. But what we want to see is, as much as we advocate for gas stations to come in and create tax revenue because they're selling, you know, soft drinks and Slurpees and things like that, we also want to see that the person that doesn't want to go to the gas station, they want to drive an electric car, can. So I don't advocate for us getting involved in free charging, but I really want to see us supporting them throughout Will County with a different perspective than a traditional gas station. And I still want to see, Macy's is very motivated because people will say, hey, I can charge my car and, you know, pick up what I want at Macy's. We're not motivated to provide free electricity, I don't think, but we want them available, and we want people to have efficient ways to fuel their car other than a gas station. So I just want to be clear when I say that I advocate for it, it is the for-pay model.
And I
Do you know?
I don't. And Dave Tack is working on that, so.
Can you ask him
Yes,
and let us
find
know?
out and let you know.
Yeah, because I mean, I would be more than happy to pay when I'm here at the county building. My car, you know, will get me to the county and back on one charge, but frequently I have other places to go after I'm done here at the county, and I can't go there on my electric charge. I have to start using gasoline to power the generator, and I prefer not to use the gasoline. So, you know, more charging stations, beneficial. I do see a lot of volts on the road. I haven't seen a lot of bolts yet with the B. Those are totally electric, and they go about 236 miles on a charge. Yeah, I want one, but now that I am unemployed, I can't afford one. So, you know, there's a cost there when you quit your job. Yeah. Go ahead. No. Yeah, I don't make any money. I give the real estate company a lot of money for services rendered, but I don't have any time to make any money. I spend far too much of it here. So, does anybody else have anything? All right, public comment. Hello, public. We'd love you to comment. Hey, public. We'd love you to comment. All right, well, there's 3 times. Going once, going twice. I have nothing to present. I will let the committee know that Maura and I have an appointment to meet to start formulating a draft on the state legislative agenda. October 18th?
It is, and I think Mimi's also going to be
Yeah.
involved in that, and Nick, I believe.
Okay. But if anybody still has some little hair tickling the back of their throat that they want to put something in,
Yeah, I mean, I would say
Yeah.
by all means, that
Bring
this
it
is not
forward.
going to be like the only time that we.
No.
We're just trying to get on it early so
Yep.
that we can have a good product to give the legislators.
yeah, maybe in November.
That they can use.
Yeah, something ready for November. So, yeah, if you have any more ideas, just to discuss a draft, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I got a little nervous there too, but.
Yeah, well, we think about it, January is the new session. We want to hit the ground running, we got to have our documents in a row. December, we don't usually have a lot of meetings.
Yeah, I think we have a good base to work from. We just need to, you know, tweak it and put any new issues, take out the issues that were addressed, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
you know.
And we've talked over some of that here in this committee. Stuff that was accomplished and stuff that still is on our radar. So we're just going to refine it and move forward for November, and maybe even get, the whole county board voting on it by December so that we're ready in January, which isn't that far ahead. I mean, not really. We're like a little over a month ahead. I think last time we didn't vote on it till what, February?
It really got away from us last year just because of the.
Well, everybody was getting sworn in
Right.
December, so.
Right, it was,
Yeah,
we're not gonna let the same thing happen.
right. We want to move on it a little quicker, so. I don't think we have any executive session. We just try not to get into those kinds of things. Aren't we nice? And our next meeting is November 12th and at 9 o'clock. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Meeting adjourned. Those opposed, same sign. There you go.